I believe that we live in a world in which motivation is something that you're expected to just have, that you're supposed to wake up and just be filled with motivation. And I think that is a huge misconception. I think that what you need to truly focus on is chasing your joy, finding things that set your heart on fire, that fill you up, as my kids would say, fill your bucket. And instead of looking for motive or hoping for this motivation, you will become inspired. And as you take a step due to the inspiration you receive, then motivation kicks in because you start to feel the rewards of what you're doing. And then you begin to feel motivated to continue on. But you've got to get inspired first. It really takes being inspired to take that step. And then the motivation kicks in.
It's the Health in the Real World podcast. It's time to start the show with Chris Janke as your host. Here to give you everything that you need when it comes to fitness strategies. We keep it simple and easy. It's your roadmap to get healthy. You don't need equipment and you don't need a gym. Just the right strategies to get you fit and trim.
Hello and welcome to the Health in the Real World podcast. I'm Chris Janke and I'm joined today by Stacie Larrison. And Stacie is an inspirational speaker and a mindset coach and has a wonderful story about the power of the mind, positivity, and living. Actually, you know what? I'm going to let you finish that. I was going to say a whole charade of stuff, but Stacie, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm really excited to be here with you.
Me too. You have a great story. I'm a huge fan of just mindset as a vehicle to health. Give us a little bit more background about you and about how you got to where you are.
Sure, I'd love to. So I have been chronically ill since I was just a kid, really. And when I was in my late teens to early 20s, things began to escalate. From there, I actually ended up with multiple diagnoses, lupus, adrenal insufficiency. I have a brain disorder called pseudotumor cerebri, and I could go on, but the reality is around that involves dozens of hospitalizations. And gosh, I don't even know how many surgeries. I quit counting at a dozen because it felt too overwhelming to keep counting. I could go on, and I developed a lot of medical trauma surrounding that. At the same time, we had a physician tell us we should try to start having kids because I probably wouldn't be able to have kids when I was older. And so we felt this like really intense urge to really dig into that really hard. And of course, my body wasn't well. So I continued to lose the pregnancies. And really, what happened was I finally took my power back and said, okay, we're not doing this. We're going a different path. And we adopted our beautiful children. But really, the reality is that amidst all of this, I was developing this incredible mindset and this wisdom that it still even surprises me. I was able to rise above all of this trauma and all of these terrible situations and circumstances and really find the strength to continue chasing my joy and finding happiness and joy in every day. Because the reality is I'm going to be unwell in some way forever. Lupus is not something that can be fixed. However, I don't need it to be fixed to be happy. And so I find so many people that are looking externally for their happiness and for their joy. And suffering is this piece that we all know suffering. Yeah. And I really feel strongly about helping others through that.
So what kinds of words do you tell people who, like you said, people look for validation outside of themselves, whether it's material possessions, or some people are addicted to fitness or food or relationships, whatever it is? What kind of words you tell people to get them to where you are? Obviously, you've been through a lot of back against the wall. Like you said before we started recording, it's like you had no choice but to either accept it, or the alternative is just no fun. So that people don't necessarily have to go through everything that you've been through. What does that sound like? What do you tell them?
Excellent perspective. So typically I say the reality is, I feel like at some point, most of us are going to wake up and no longer feel connected or resonate with this life around us or this persona we've created, whatever it is. And oftentimes we think, if I lose the weight, I will be happy. If I get the promotion, I'm going to be happy. Once I get my dream house, I'm going to be happy. But typically, when that is your mindset, eventually the joy of attaining those things, if you're able to attain them, it wears off and you're back at the beginning. I can be happy when this, I can be happy when that. Really, what I encourage is, and I really believe it's the foundation that needs to be rebuilt. And it's that foundation of self-love and self-acceptance. And a lot of people will say to you, I do love myself, I do accept myself. But I have found that a lot of people actually don't even know who they truly are. They're living this life based on what others have wanted for them and what others have chosen for them. So I encourage people to deconstruct, pull away from things, and give it a little time and start seeing, where do you naturally get pulled? Do you want to continue doing this? Do you want to continue doing this? Get to know yourself. Once you get to know yourself, then you can start figuring out what are the limiting beliefs that have kept you in this other persona that you've been hanging out in, if that's not really you.
How much of the new mindset was created just you going inside of your own head versus having conversations with trusted friends or family members? Was that beneficial too?
Oh, I think that is incredible, because I think when we speak to friends and family about our experiences and what we're going through, it's an excellent way to process. And what better way to process than with someone you trust? And I am super open. I talk a lot, but I will say, in this particular circumstance, over the course of COVID, when we were in quarantine, I took the opportunity to shut almost everything out. And I spent about a year just working on me without asking the opinions and feelings of others, because I was their opinions were weighing far too heavy for me. I needed to start listening to my own thoughts and my own feelings and my own opinions.
So somebody listening to this right now, like, they're hearing what you're saying about a lot of us tend to live our lives for somebody else. And I think it starts when we're kids. We're like trying to
Right.
seek our parents' approval and everything. And we still do it to fit into society as adults. I guess I have two questions. One is, how does somebody listening know that they fall into that camp? Oh, I really do need to work with this. And then once the answer is yes to that, what's the next step? Like, how do they
Mhm.
begin turning that around, seeing things differently?
I love that. So I really believe in the power of intuition. I believe that intuition is a gift that is given to us, that is to help keep us safe and also to help guide us. And with that, when we are able to, for me, it was blocking out some of the external noise. And when I did that, I was able to start listening to my own heart again. And what I found was that when you're able to listen to yourself, you begin to have this knowing. A lot of people you might hear people say, and what I used to say before I realized this was that I had a hole in me, that it's like this black hole. And no matter, it's like, I'm happy, I love my family, I'm happy. But there's this piece of me that feels broken, or there's this hole in me that no matter what I do, I can't fill it in. I've heard people say that. I know I've said that. But really, when I started listening to my intuition, I no longer felt like who I was resonating with, who I truly am as a soul. And the beauty of beginning to understand that is that I think our intuition can guide us along this journey of healing. For me, I truly feel like you don't have to know, though. Healing is an overwhelming idea for so many people. You're asking people to unpack trauma. You're asking them to pull out things that they've not wanted to pull out or even admit are there. So what I say is you don't have to know the whole way. You just take one step. That might be ordering your first self-development book on Amazon. That might mean scheduling your first appointment with a therapist. Or if you're further along, it might be schedule a retreat where you go and really dig in. It's different for everyone, and you need only just take a little effort, take a step.
Yeah. I like
one
that.
day at a time.
Taking that
Mhm.
first step. And I think you mentioned just 3 steps right there. 2 steps were like contacting somebody, right? It involved either
Mhm.
contacting a therapist or maybe going on that retreat. And then the other one was
Order a
book.
development book.
Self-development book. I can attest to this. If you want to really immerse yourself in something, audiobooks, podcast, you're totally right. That first step is huge because then you start to hear the lingo, you start to hear the words, and they start to just seep in. I'm also a big fan. I don't know if you've ever done this, listening to the same audiobook like 2, 3, 4 times. Because
Yes, you
then
continue to glean more.
exactly.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy every book under the sun. You just have to get really good at, absorbing whatever this person's saying. So is there a book
Right.
for you that helped you do that? Or what are some of your favorite books in this regard?
So when I would say the very beginning book that really broke me open and made me realize that I'm not the first person that's felt this way was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
That book
Um,
exploded my brain.
right?
I was
And it made me such a better parent. I immediately started taking on those practices. And now I just had a conversation with my daughter yesterday. You are not those feelings. You are not those feelings that are telling you that you're not those thoughts that are telling you you're not enough. So I feel like that is such a powerful book to give you. It's so inspiring, and it's going to shoot you on a path. And your path is going to look different for what it meant, for what it did for me.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to.
Yeah. Did you read that book or did you listen to the audiobook?
I actually read it. My husband is huge into audiobooks, but he has a really busy profession and he is always driving. I love the feeling of the book pages between my fingers. And so I am that traditional reader.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. There is a wealth of free information available these days through audiobooks and libraries. I think podcasts are this is like how you can hear directly from expert people
Right.
that you may not ever even be able to get close to. And it's more or less like they're talking to you. Incredible.
Yeah. What do you work? I know you're an inspirational speaker. You speak to audiences. Do you work individually with people or small groups, or is it mainly the bigger platform?
I actually love working with smaller groups and individuals. I love that. As a matter of fact, I've recently been thinking about, I'm currently writing a course called Radical Heart, and it's about how to do exactly what I just described to you, where you deconstruct, learn who you are, identify who you are, develop this true you is. And I will have it out in the next month or so, but I really am excited. I had this thought that I need to start connecting with people like fitness folks like you who work with people, but that once you're done working with them, they may not be able to continue this on their own. Or what happens if you help them heal some of that emotional work and create that foundational balance? I feel like it would just make the work that you do with your clients 1,000 times more impactful.
Agreed. You said the name of that program that's coming out soon is Radical Heart, you said?
Radical Heart.
What
And
are
this is all about.
what are some of the, you don't give away all of it, but what are some of the milestones of that or touch points? Like what does part of the table of contents look like?
Love that. So really we start with how do you want to show up in the world? Who is the person that you want to be? And we start identifying that. And it sounds simple, but it's actually not. So you identify who you want to be. And then we start to reverse engineer. We go backwards. All right. So if that's who we're wanting to be, what do we need to do to get there? And we break it down and create what begins with very, very doable goals. And then you have created this beautiful pathway for how to get there. And as you as you begin working through that, we also work through self-limiting beliefs. And a lot of people don't realize that they have self-limiting beliefs because it's a belief. But once you start to work through and recognize and develop this awareness of these beliefs that you have, it makes working through that process of your goals to become what I call your highest self really doable and attainable. And people can truly see that.
Those limiting beliefs can get you, like you said, they're beliefs. They're like at your core, right? That's what you think the world is about. Well, that sounds like a very cool program, and it'll be available probably by the time this podcast is up, because I think it'll be another couple weeks before this is up.
It very well may be. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Again, we're talking with Stacie Larrison. Stacie, you're an inspirational speaker, so I'm going to give you a chance to shine here. We're going to put you in front of a college graduation. They are just about to start their adult lives, and your speech is how you think they can get the most out of their lives. What would you tell these young adults?
Excellent. Love this. I believe that we live in a world in which motivation is something that you're expected to just have, that you're supposed to wake up and just be filled with motivation. And I think that is a huge misconception. I think that what you need to truly focus on is chasing your joy, finding things that set your heart on fire, that fill you up, as my kids would say, fill your bucket. And instead of looking for or hoping for this motivation, you will become inspired. And as you take a step due to the inspiration you receive, then motivation kicks in, because you start to feel the rewards of what you're doing. And then you begin to feel motivated to continue on. But you've got to get inspired first. It really takes being inspired to take that step, and then the motivation kicks in.
I agree 100%. That's awesome. Well, again, give your website, because we were talking about that, right? Give your website.
I am Unstoppable Stacie, and Stacie is with an IE, so STACIE, Unstoppable Stacie. And I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok with the same handle.
Nice. Awesome. Again, this is Health in the Real World. I'm Chris Janke. Stacie Larrison today. Stacie, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. All the best in this program. Sounds like it's awesome. And again, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. I've loved being here.
Thanks for listening to the Health in the Real World show. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Visit mycorebalance.com to learn more.